V-Pets, and okay, we can start the video. What is up, digital companions? My name is CarneyX, and welcome back to another video. But I only say welcome back to the nice people, the virtuous people who've hit subscribe. So if you're a demon lord who hasn't, change that right now. So yeah, the 7 demon lords: Lilithmon, Beelzemon, Barbamon, Belphamon Rage Mode, Leviamon, Demon, and Lucamon Fall Down Mode, as well as Ogundamon, and their 8th representation of all of them. When I did my Royal Knights video, I tried to find Digimon that just thematically fit each Royal Knight and inverse to them. But interestingly, in Christian mythology, there are actually a couple of different takes on what the opposite of the 7 deadly sins might be, known as the 7 virtues. Sometimes the 7 heavenly virtues, sometimes the 7 capital virtues, and so on. And even within the capital virtues, there are a couple of different versions depending on your interpretation of the 7 deadly sins. However, there is one specific set of these 7 capital virtues that do one-for-one match the 7 deadly sins used specifically for the demon lords. The virtue of lust is chastity, temperance for gluttony, charity for greed, diligence for sloth, kindness for envy, patience for wrath, and humility for pride. I gotta admit, I'm a little bit disappointed that the crest from Digimon didn't magically turn out to be the 7 heavenly virtues this whole time. Though one of the heavenly virtues, not capital virtues unfortunately, is hope. So whichever way we cut it, someone from Patamon's evolution line is going to end up in this video. So let's begin with lust, represented by Lilithmon. Its virtuous equivalent is chastity, also known as purity, virtue related to temperance. Someone who is chaste refrains either from sexual activity considered immoral, or just any sexual activity. This doesn't really apply to a Digimon, unfortunately. However, I got a kind of sideways look at this, and have chosen Sakoyamon Miko mode. Oh hey look, it's the thumbnail. While Miko or Shrine Maidens were not required to be celibate, chastity in the sense of abstaining from immoral sexual activity still makes sense to me, and the 5 precepts of the Taoist religion include no sexual misconduct. And yes, while Shinto and Tao are not the same, they have many links, and the Sakoyamon line includes Taomon. So it's very clearly meant to be that the Sakoyamon Renamon evolution line is a merging of Shinto and Taoist principles. Another good connection here is that in the Digimon World Data Squad video game, a Renamon's human partner, Kagura Yuma, actually becomes Lilithmon with the Lust Code Crown, which is disturbing, but later in the game, her partner Renamon can also digivolve into Lilithmon. So yeah, Renamon being Sakoyamon and Sakoyamon Miko mode's de facto rookie works out quite well. However, and put a pin in this for now, another pick could be Ophanimon. Ophanimon and Lilithmon kind of being like one step up from Angelwomon and Lady Devimon in many ways. Stick with me for a second. Beelzemon is gluttony, and so its opposite virtue would be temperance. Temperance in its modern use is defined as moderation or voluntary self-restraint. If gluttony is consuming whatever you want, whether it be food generally, wine, alcohol, knowledge, whatever, temperance is the opposite of that. Restraint, not letting yourself gorge on things, holding yourself back from your darkness. And this includes restraint from revenge by practicing non-violence and forgiveness. Indeed, even restraint from rage, which is why I have chosen Gallantmon Crimson Mode. Gallantmon Crimson Mode, specifically in its evolution line, has angel wings, which I love. Gallantmon Crimson Mode itself represents the total overcoming the temperance that Gallantmon has to have to not turn to its dark side, Megidramon. On top of that, Megidramon existed in the first place because of Beelzemon, because of what he did to Leomon, Takato's rage. And it was Takato and Leomon learning temperance to control their rage to not give in to what is easily consumed, which allowed them to access Gallantmon and Gallantmon Crimson Mode. I really love this bit. I think it works. Barbamon is the demon lord of greed, and the opposite of greed is supposed to be charity, which I guess makes sense. If greed is hoarding things like wealth, charity is giving it away, doing things for others, giving what you have to others. Funnily enough, Cupimon is designated as the angel of charity in its reference book listing, but as an in-training Digimon, it may be a smidge underpowered to take on Barbamon. Common evos for Cupimon are Patamon, Terriermon, and Lucamon. So perhaps another pivot could instead be Cherubimon Virtue. It's one of the 3 Archangel Digimon, and I really want to include all 3 of those Archangels if I can. Funnily enough, there's actually some more Christian mythology backing up this pick too. There is a type of archangel called a Sachi who are in the order of cherubim, just like Cherubimon's namesake, and these archangel cherubs were in the domain of wealth and charity. Pretty good fit, I think. And as an aside, Cherubimon Vice X Antibody can evolve to Barbamon X in the Digital Monster X version too. There's already something of a connection between the two. Barbamon Rage Mode, Sloth, because he also has Barbamon Sleep Mode. Hold on. Are you ready for a new Digimon video? And I am too. Daddy's gotta pay the bills, okay? Today's video is once again sponsored by Zenin TCG. Bandai Namco just loves dropping new Digimon products randomly during the week. So Zenin TCG, your one-stop shop for all Digimon and anime goods. We're gonna jump on to sponsor another video because
news just in that controversial federal indictment of Don Lemon, another independent journalist and several participants in an anti-ICE protest at a church in Minnesota last month. The DOJ has put together a superseding indictment modifying this case. MSNL Legal Affairs reporter Fallon Gallagher is here with us. What are the details, Fallon?
Yeah, Anna, we have very few details at this point because this indictment remains under seal, but we know that the DOJ has to return a new superseding indictment in the case involving Don Lemon because the DOJ filed a motion asking the judge to unseal that. So we have yet to see the contents of this indictment, so we can't speak specifically how it's changed yet. We have a few hints. We can see online that the docket has changed, the case name has changed from U.S. v. Levy Armstrong, of course, that first co-defendant in the case, to U.S. v. Sealand. And so that implies that there may be a number of new co-defendants who have been arrested in connection with that church protest who are added to this case. We don't know if the charges are should be unsealed very soon. What's interesting here is that our affiliate CARE in Minneapolis this case, but at this point, we don't know. Thank you for bringing us back.
Do not pay your next car insurance bill. Repeat, do not pay your bill yet. So I found this website and look at the difference. $271 a month. I thought that this was the best that they could do. Like every price is the best, right? It's not. $50 a month for 2 cars. And even if they steal my cars, they didn't have to deal with an annoying insurance agent. Push our rates up and make us. So if you want to try this website, click the link below. It took 2 minutes, super fast. You gotta trust me on this. Just try it.
taxes, there's just some updates. Now taxes, it's a TurboTax expert. Doing it all. What's the backstory behind it, right?
Well, the Green Ranger, so the show came from the Sentai series. So in Japan, the show ran for 20 years. It wasn't called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, it was Sentai. It's like, there's a different name, they had different names, and every season they would change. So it was a successful show. For 20 years, Bond started like, how we gonna get in America? We'll change the actors in the beginning with our own stories. As we got to the footage, make it to our own story, right? So in the Japanese movie, they had the Green Ranger here. The Green Ranger was a bad guy. Eventually, they killed him after so many episodes. And so they only have a few seasons, a few episodes, let's say 5 to 10 episodes of the Green Ranger. And after that, he's going to die off and go away. And then the next season, there was going to be a White Ranger. Because eventually, every cast had a 6th Ranger. If you watch the show over the years, there's always a 6th Ranger, a Blue Ranger, a Gold Ranger, something else that came and joined the cast. But everybody was so impressed with the writing of the story. Being such a badass performer. I mean, he's such a bad guy. Became time to die. So many people had enjoyed they were playing as the actor in the Ranger. So they done it. Brought it back to the White Ranger. And then, unfortunately, after that, we were trying to negotiate for a better contract. We walked away, so then we left him to be the alpha. He was like the alpha baby. He was like, the new guys couldn't touch him. He was the guy that was there, like, the big win. You know, like, Billy wasn't as strong as the Green Ranger or the White Ranger. He wasn't skillful in that way. He was a smart guy. So the new guys were kind of like the underlings after that. And, you know, he went on to do 6 more seasons in that role.
Why did the Green Ranger shield look higher quality in the Japanese footage compared to the American footage? Because, I mean, in the American footage, it looked terrible, yo. It looked real cheap.
Because it was. Because that's what they did. They didn't they didn't make it out of the same material. They just made it, you know, kind of flimsy, and it wasn't that great. It wasn't the same. It wasn't the same suit. It wasn't the same, you know, shield. It was. They made one that kind of looked like it, their version of it, but yeah.
Yeah, it looked bad, bro. It looked terrible, man. It looked terrible, yo.
He said, that looked bad, bro. I had nothing to do with that, bro. That's what they did. Apparently, they didn't want to pay their actors well. They didn't want to pay for much costumes. You know, they were keeping the costs down, which is weird to me, but they were keeping the costs down to save as much money as possible. I guess, you know, to invest in whatever else they wanted to invest in.
Was it difficult for you to do some of those things?
Difficult in the fact that it was taxing, and it was like a lot of physical effort, you know. Even we would shoot 4 episodes every 2 weeks, right? And we would shoot according to set. So almost in every episode, we go to the command center and we talk to Zordon. Now, Zordon's not there. Zordon's a piece of tape on the wall that we're looking at and talking to, and there's a script reader reading his lines. It's not even the voice of Zordon. It's a woman. We're going, Rangers, there's a problem in Angel Grove. We need you to go down there. You know, she's screaming, and we're like acting to that. And we're looking at the thing now. That I would say was because we're not doing anything. We're acting like we're upset, and we're looking at the globe, we're looking at the wall. We're like, you know, and that was a full day of command center, changing clothes, going back, remembering who we're fighting in this script, you know, and what just happened